Welcome to the Dad Nation podcast, where men go from good to great in their life and love. Now more than ever, our world needs strong, courageous, and compassionate men, because we believe that when the dad gets better, the whole family wins. This movement is called Dad Nation, but ultimately this is for the wives and the children and the generations to come, because we believe that every wife and child deserves a father who is pursuing greatness. I am your host, Mitchell Osman, and I'm genuinely so grateful, and I'm really humbled that you have chosen to spend your most precious resource, which is your time, with me today. 60 minutes is a big deal, my friends. And so usually my episodes I try and keep them under 60 minutes unless they're going real good. But I know today's is going to be a little bit shorter. So today we are going to talk about the 3 ways to be the most likable guy in any room. My friend, I am glad you are tuning in to this episode, because this is going to be a gooder. All right. It's a little bit shorter, but it's going to be good. I'm going to share some statistics with you that will make you really think about where we're at as men today when it comes to having friends, our social situation, and some of the ways that we withdraw. And then we're going to talk about some big key things to do to engage people in conversations, to leave a memorable impression, to make great friends, and the value of long-lasting friends in your life. Okay? So here's the reality. Men are growing more lonely each year, with an increase in the culture of comparison, with this war on masculinity. There's so much to unpack even in that, and so many other factors. Men are now more hesitant than ever to reach out and connect with other men. Here are some numbers that'll really make you think. We know that there are 7 million men of working age but are not, and many of these men are on social programs, and many of them are medicated, very medicated, okay? These same men, these 7 million men, are spending on average 2,000 hours per year on a screen, okay? That equates to 83.3 days per year drowning their mind in distractions. A YouGov poll in 2019 concluded that 1 in 5 men have no close friends, which is twice as many as women. The Survey Center on American Life found that since 1995, the number of American men reporting that they had no close friends jumped from 3% to 15%. That's like 5 times more. I don't know, I just did the math in my head, and my math's not great. In the same research, the number of men saying that they had at least 6 close friends halved from 55% to 27%. Now, what do these numbers tell us? These numbers tell us that men struggle with friendships. They struggle with accountability. They struggle in community. There's obviously not a lot of relationships, right? And this is actually part of the reason why I started the Dad Nation movement, because I saw a vacancy in this. I saw hurting, broken men who were lonely, tired, and just didn't know where to turn. And that is a big reason why I even started this in the first place. So you could say I'm particularly passionate about this subject. I'm also passionate about it because I lived through it. You've heard me talk a little bit about the dark season of my soul, probably about 3 years into our marriage. I went through a season of depression. Me and my wife were on the outs, weren't really sure how it was going to work out. I was overweight. We were in debt. It was just a season where I went through crippling anxiety because of a injury that I had, a post-concussion. It was a terrible time in my life. And I remember her saying to me, Sam, my wife, her saying to me, she kept saying, man, why don't you just go hang out with friends? You need some friends. Why don't you hang out with friends more? Why don't you have more guy friends? And I would just push it off, and I'd be like, nah, nobody gets me, or, I don't need friends. I got you, and I got, the dog and whatever. But there was a reason why I wasn't reaching out. There was a reason why I wasn't involved in relationship with other men. And some of those reasons were because deep down, I was ashamed of what my life had become. And I didn't really want to spend time with other men and talk about my life because I was embarrassed as to what it looked like. I didn't want them to ask questions about my life. Another reason why I was afraid was I was afraid of accountability. I was afraid of actually having a man step into my life and hold me accountable to the things that I said I wanted in life. And it made me uncomfortable, just the thought of having to do that. The third reason was that I had a real fear of being vulnerable. I had a real fear of letting people in because I had been hurt in the past by other people that I trusted. And so there was a real fear around that. I was insecure. I didn't want people to ask about my life because I didn't like my life. And so what all this did, it just caused me to withdraw even more. And what this did was it kept my depression in the dark. It kept my insecurities in a position of power. It prolonged my season of struggle. And the only way out of that was to bring it into the light by talking to close, trusted brothers about the demons that I was facing. And so eventually I got up the courage to do that. You've heard my story a little bit, and there are a lot of nuances to my story I haven't shared yet, which I will over time. But basically, the most powerful thing I did in my life was get around like-minded men who were driven and determined, men who were willing to fight for their marriage, to prioritize their mental and emotional health, and they were focused on creating healthy marriages and healthy and strong bodies. And it was incredible for me, getting around inspiring men like that who I would welcome into my life to call me up instead of just calling me out. So sidebar, if you're listening to this and you don't have anyone in your life that challenges you or pushes you to be better, I want you to reach out to somebody today. So take a look around your social circles. Is there anybody that's kind of living a life in the way that you want to live? Is there anyone in your life that you fully trust and admire and you want to learn from them? If so, reach out to them, all right? Just get real with them and ask them questions and start taking the steps you need. You see, here's the reality. The lone wolf dies alone. The lone wolf dies alone. We were created for community, right? You remember high school, college, in your late teens, in your 20s? Do you remember that seemingly unbreakable bond you had with your friends? But then over time, as you pursued your career, you got married, you had kids, a lot of these deep-rooted friendships began to fade into the distance. I know my relational life took a big hit as I worked my way through the milestones of life. But then I got to a point where my life was full of acquaintances and void of tried and true friendships. I call them 2 a.m. friends. These are the guys you can call at 2 a.m. No matter what's going on, they're going to pick up the phone and they're going to help you out. They'll jump out of bed, they'll come boost your car, they'll come bail you out. I mean, these are the friends that we're talking about here. Guys that are going to call you on your BS, they're going to call you up. But the thing is as we age, as we build our lives, as we tend to become more guarded. We become more protective because there's more to lose. So vulnerability becomes harder. But the problem is vulnerability and accountability are the key ingredients to a real, genuine friendship. But these are the things that we lack as we age. But the truth is there's going to come a time where life kicks you down, unfortunately. And I think, a wise man will understand this and they'll be prepared for when it comes. There's going to come a time when you're laying on your back and you're going to find it hard to get back up. Perhaps it's going to be marriage issues or financial struggles or problems with your kids. But let me tell you this is not the right time to look for a friend. You don't want to be in that situation and then start looking for friends, because then it's going to be even harder to reach out because you're going to be in such a challenging state of mind. So it's essential to have people in your corner that are ready and willing to go to bat for you. They know your wins, they know your crap, and they're here for it all. Because when it hits the fan, they're going to be there for you when you have to face it. We were not created to do life alone and in isolation. So don't be that lone wolf. Be the wolf that belongs to a pack, attacking life together, protecting each other, providing support for each other, an unbreakable bond. But it's crazy, right? Because the reality is most men actually don't even know how to make friends anymore. And I know this because I was there. It's like I lost touch with how to do it. Many of us lost touch of the art of conversation. because we haven't been cultivating the skills. But the key to any friendship is intentionality, okay? Intentionality. Here's another phrase to think about. You will never drift into deep friendship. I'll say that again. You will never drift into deep friendship. These kinds of friends take intentionality, commitment, and time. As Lance Witt puts it in his book, Your One Life, passivity is the enemy of deep friendship. You see, so many kinds of relationships share these same principles. Marriage is no different, right? Do you think of a great marriage that just happens? No, it takes a ton of work. Do you think you just drift into having an amazing relationship with your kids? Heck no. Right? So why would you think of genuine, real relationships being any different? So we can't just use the excuse that we're too busy, or they don't try to connect with me, or maybe they're too busy. It's important for you to take the initiative. Send the text, plan the hang, grab a brew, right? Be real with your buddies and invest your time and energy and just see what happens. You see, a lot of great friendships fall away over time, and rarely it's because of a big blow up. More often than not, it's simply just about passivity and a lack of intentionality. And maybe as you're hearing this right now, there's a name that's coming to your mind. Maybe it's a friend who you've drifted from or simply lost touch with. I want you to, if there's a name that comes to your mind when I'm saying this, I want you to push pause and I want you to reach out to them. Go grab a coffee, grab a beer, just catch up. Now, why is this important? Because your friends equal your future. Your friends equal your future. Jim Rohn was famous for saying this, and we've said it on the podcast before. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This is true because we are mirrors, and we observe others and we mimic them. And most of the time, it's not even a conscious decision to do it. But there are mind-blowing statistics that showcase how we can change our habits to mimic those around us, for better or for worse. So, for example, here's some crazy numbers for you. If you have a close friend who is a smoker, you are 70% more likely to begin smoking. If you have a family member who overeats regularly and is overweight, it dramatically increases your chances of falling into the same trap. So, for example, research shows that a person's chance of becoming obese increases by 57% if a close friend is obese, 40% if a sibling is obese, and 37% if a spouse is obese. Walter Willett, which is the chair of the Department of Nutrition at Harvard School of Public Health, said, obesity is contagious, but physical activity and healthy eating are too. So we want to emphasize the latter. We mimic those around us. It's important that we take a look at our social circles, because what we see is what we will become. This is why you see married couples who have been married for like 30, 40 years, and they just slowly kind of just become the same person because they spend so much time together. This is not just random or coincidence. This is psychology and how we work. So we've established that it's important to be in relationship with others. We've established the importance of being in community. We've established the importance of being intentional in your relationships. And we've talked about the significant influence that our friends have around us, if we do have friends, right? So now I want to talk about the situation that maybe you don't have any close friends, or maybe you've made friends, and now that you're hearing all this, you're looking around and you're thinking, I might need some new friends because I don't really like what I'm seeing, or I don't really like how they're affecting me or impacting my life. So this next part of this episode is going to be these 3 tips on how to become the most likable guy in any room. And this essentially is really 3 ways to make great friends, okay? You could call it that too. And right before we jump into those 3 things, I want to give you a counterintuitive piece of advice that will cause you to kind of have to fight your impulses at social events. And it's this quote: be interested, not interesting. And this quote comes from Dale Carnegie's famous book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And Dale Carnegie was a pioneer in the psychology of successful personalities. And he wrote this famous book more than 80 years ago. If you haven't read it, you should. I know people who read this book once a year. It's fantastic. Be interested, not interesting. Because as the old adage goes, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So it's important to express genuine interest in those around you. Be interested in the things that they say. Hang on to their words. Drop the need to be the most interesting guy in the room. Drop the need to one-up your buddy's story at the next social event you're at. Be interested, not interesting. So with that, I want to share with you the 3 keys to being the most likable guy in any room. So this is simply just 3 points, and you can use this as a guide to help consider when thinking about how you come off to other people, right? We all have those people in our life where it's like we dread having an upcoming conversation with them, or like having a meeting with them, or like we dread getting a text message from this person because we just don't like being around them. So have you ever considered that you might be that person to somebody else? Ugh, it's not a good thing to think about, but in reality, maybe there are people that think of us that way. It's an uncomfortable thing to think about. So we're going to use these 3 principles to make sure that that never happens in your social circle, okay? The number 1 principle is to simply be where your feet are, okay? AKA, wherever you are, be there. Be present. Here's the deal, my friends. There is no substitute for genuine interest, like I just said. Make eye contact. Ask great questions. The longer we go in this society, in this world, the more the art of conversation seems to disappear. People are more distracted than ever. And you know the feeling, right? There have been so many scenarios that you and I have been in. You say, for example, like you're talking to somebody at a party and you can just tell that they're just itching to look at the phone. Or maybe they're actually looking at their phone while they're talking to you. Or maybe they're fully texting somebody else while they're talking to you. Or they're talking and their eyes are scanning the room to see the next person that they want to talk to. Or maybe they're not even making eye contact at all. They're just seemingly disengaged. Okay, do you know that feeling? It sucks. You feel like a nuisance and an inconvenience. So my encouragement to you is do not be that guy. Be present. Put your phone away. Look them in the eyes when you're talking to them. And avoid these simple topics like weather and the sports. Everyone asks these questions, right? We're going to get into some more of this later, but instead, consider asking them questions that make them come alive, right? Ask them things that their heart is connected to. Like, are you married? What's your wife's name? How did you guys meet? What do you guys do for fun? Do you have kids? How old? What do you do for fun with them? What are they like? What's your favorite thing about your kids? Right? What are some things that you love about fatherhood? And here's the trick. Actually listen. Because giving someone your full undivided attention and interest costs you absolutely nothing. But it leaves a lasting and a powerful impression. It's priceless. And it's rare these days. One of my biggest fears is that when I die, people will say, I never felt like he cared, or he was too busy for me. All right, so number 1, be where your feet are, okay? Wherever you are, be there. Number 2, slow your roll. All right, so listen, be honest with yourself. Do you rush to every single meeting you go to? Are you constantly hurried in conversations with people? Do you let them have the time to fully speak and respond? Or do you find yourself jumping in to help them finish their sentences? And when you do stop to talk with people, are your actions and your body language kind of giving them the impression that you are in a hurry? Do you look past them or do you look at them when you're talking to them? Now, here's the truth. There is a direct connection between the speed of your life and your ability to connect with the people right in front of you. I'm going to say that again. There is a direct connection between the speed of your life and your ability to connect with the people right in front of you. So when you're talking with people and spending time with others, here are some tips. If you're walking with them, sometimes I do like walking meetings with people so I can get my steps in. If you're walking with them and you're talking, don't rush the pace. Walk at their pace, okay? Number 2, let them speak and wait until they finish. Space is okay in a conversation. I would say space is important. Don't feel like you need to help them by finishing their sentences and jumping in. I was notorious for this. And over the past year or so, I've really been working on just allowing space and allowing people to think and process and not feeling like I need to jump in right away. And the third thing when it comes to slowing down is so for example, if someone asks for a 30-minute meeting, agree to it, but I want you to schedule 45 minutes for that meeting. And that way, you can slowly end the meeting. And even if you go over a little longer, people will feel valued because you gave them more time. And even if you do end on time, you get an extra 15-minute bonus. I mean, it's awesome. All right. The number 3 factor here to be the most likable guy in any room is to document the details. One of the greatest feelings in the world is being known. Everybody loves being known. We love hearing our own names. We're all just so narcissistic in nature. We love talking about ourselves. So when you're with others, I want you to think about ways that you can make them feel seen, valued, and known. Okay? You make them feel seen by being present. You make them feel valued by slowing down. And you make them feel known by understanding and remembering the details. So the CEO of the Ritz-Carlton tells this fascinating story about how to make people feel known and valued. So at one of his hotels, one of the housekeepers was cleaning a room and noticed the cookie crumbs on the plate, and that all was left over the cookies after the cookies were eaten were just a pile of nuts. That was all that was left from the cookie. And after one or two days, this housekeeper kept observing that this person was eating the cookies but leaving the nuts that were in the cookies. So after a couple of days, the housekeeper put in an order to the baker to bake a batch of cookies without the nuts and had them delivered to their room with a special note. That, my friends, is next level care, right? That is documenting the details. You better believe that person felt real seen, heard, and understood when they got a fresh batch of cookies with no nuts in them. Here's a great principle to remember. When we value the lives of others, we add value to our own lives. When we value the lives of others, we add value to our own lives. And I couldn't agree more. When spending time with others, let me ask you, how are you making others feel known and valued? Again, flip the script, right? So do you think when people walk away from interactions and meetings and hangouts with you, do you think that they walk away feeling better or worse? Do you think they walk away from interactions with you feeling seen, heard, and understood, or confused and devalued or disrespected or belittled even? Here are some practical examples for you if you really want to make somebody feel known in documenting the details, okay? So when the next time you're going to go hang out with somebody that matters to you or somebody who you want to develop a relationship with, you can bring them their favorite coffee the next time you see them. It's a simple gesture. It's cheap. It's one of those things that's far more of a relational investment than a financial investment. The next thing is if you hang out with them a second time, I want you to try and remember some things that they told you from the last time you spent together. And maybe that means just grabbing your phone and writing down a note of something that they shared with you after you hang out for the first time. Because then when you get back together the second time, you can ask them about that thing. Maybe it was something they were going through, a challenge that they were facing, or something going on with the kids. And ask them specifically about that the next time you spend time together. They'll just be fascinated and just feel so known because you remember those details. Or after you hang out, and if you happen to see an article or a blog or a post or come across a book that speaks to something that you spoke about together, send them that article, send them the book with a personal note. Say, hey, thinking about you, or hey, I hope this helps. Whatever that situation might be for the person, this is going to be so impactful for them. All right, so there you have it, the 3 keys to being the most likable guy in any room. Number 1, be where your feet are. Be fully present in the room. We talked about how to do that. Put your phone away. Be there. Engage in conversation. Look them in the eyes. You get it. 2, slow your roll. Slow down. Avoid the enemy of hurry. Okay. 3, document the details. Remember the details. Follow up. you get it. And so now in the context of conversation, when you're having some conversations with these people that perhaps you want to develop relationship with, we're going to talk about the 3 levels of great conversation. And this is a really great tool to help you break out of the same old routine of asking the same questions, right? What do you do? Where are you from? Yada, yada, yada. We kind of get stuck in these cycles of small talk. We can't seem to get past these questions. You talk about the weather, you talk about what you do for a living, and then the conversation just kind of drops. And that's okay, right? Like most people do kind of get stuck in that rut. But here's the thing, you're just kind of stuck in that first level of communication. So author Dan McAdams explains these 3 levels and how you can dig deeper into some of your friendships to engage in more meaningful conversation and allow you to really connect with people on a deeper level. Okay, so the first level is general traits, right? This is about their occupation, their age, their gender. Okay, so this is like the most shallow level of conversation. Some questions in level 1 are like, what do you do? Where are you from? Those basic, the weather, stuff like that. We get stuck here often, but also we kind of have to go through this because our brain has to learn the basics before we can proceed. It's like the hierarchy of facts, right? So then we can move to level 2, which is personal concerns. This is around their motivations and their values. So the level 2 of conversation around personal concerns, here are some questions. Are you working on anything exciting lately? Or what's your hobbies these days? Or what was the last thing that you did where you just had a ton of fun, right? So you can ask these questions. This is a second level. And the third level of conversation is called the self-narrative. And this is the story you tell yourself about yourself. And these answers give you clues from level 1 and level 2 instantly. And this is kind of the most intimate level, right? And I would advise you not to just jump straight to level 3. I mean, you got to go through these levels, level 1, level 2, level 3, right? And so here are some examples of questions you would ask on the third level of conversation. What's your deepest fear? What really drives you? What's like your deepest passion? Who's your role model or who's your hero? What I love about this last question is when you ask somebody who their hero is, this actually kind of can reveal who they want to be or who they might want to be. And so those 3 levels of conversations, you might want to write those down or document them. Save this episode so that you can come back to it and you can kind of help use this tool to sort of navigate through conversation. So as we start to wind down this conversation, I want you to think about your friendships, right? Now, your wife is not included in this. Thinking about your buddies, all right? Here are some questions that I want you to consider that will help you think about the depth and the breadth of your relational life, okay? Number 1, is your social life, your friendships, is it deep or is it wide? Or in other words, is your life full of acquaintances or concentrated with true, like 2 a.m. friendships? Another question is, which of your friends really knows you? Like knows the deep, dark stuff, the good stuff, the bad stuff, the ugly stuff. Number 3, does anyone in your life, outside of your wife, know your weakest areas? Number 4, does anyone in your life know your biggest struggles? I want to encourage you to start finding relationships where like just 1 or 2 guys that you can just be real and honest with. Because I'm telling you, whatever is in the darkness, when you bring it to the light and share it with another brother and confide with them, it will remove its power and you will be able to live in more freedom than you ever thought possible. So as we wrap up this episode, I want to give you a thought exercise or a visualization exercise. And it's really about the power and the significance of friendships. So I want you to picture a moment in your future. I want you to picture maybe you're in your late 70s, okay? You're sitting on your porch, you're taking in the sunrise. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning. Your coffee is steaming. There's a warm breeze. You're sitting, you can feel the soft cushions on your chair beneath you. Maybe you woke up a little bit earlier than normal. And you're not sure why, but this has been happening as you've aged. So you make the most of these opportunities to really sit and reflect on your life. And you think back over your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, and your 60s. You've worked hard. You've had some amazing wins, and you've took some big losses. Life has been amazing at times, but it's been gut-wrenching and painful at other times. And you reflect on your lifetime of memories. You know, your daughter's wedding in Hawaii, the camping trips with the grandkids, the time you went on vacation to Costa Rica, you know, the time maybe your wife had that cancer scare, the business deal that went south, your family reunions with all your immediate and extended family. And you realize that the most significant things in life are actually creating those experiences that will become beautiful memories to share. You realize that it's not all those fancy cars, all the properties, or the fine suits that make life so rich. As you reflect on this, you feel the desire to invite an old friend over to catch up and swap stories, right? To just catch up and talk about the good old days and talk about where life is at now, where the kids are at, where the grandkids are at. You just want to have a good time and relax. In this scenario, do you have friends to call? Friend, I encourage you to be present, to slow down, to add value to the lives of others, and to create deep, meaningful relationships that will last a lifetime. Because one day, when you're reflecting over it all, you're really going to want to share those memories with others. You're really going to want to have beautiful memories to even share and to reflect on. And that will only come with deep, meaningful relationships. So as we wrap up today's episode, I just want to leave you with one question. If you had 1 year left to live, if you knew that you were going to die on this day next year, what relationship would be the first one that you would run to repair? What person would you run to reconnect with? And why does that connection matter? Ask yourself, what's holding you back from repairing that relationship right now? And if you could start over and start fresh with this person, what would you want that relationship to look like? And I know as I'm asking you that question, there's a name that comes to your mind. So now that this podcast is wrapping up, I want you to reach out to that person, okay? Life is too short to live it alone and to not have any meaningful relationships. We were created for community. Great friendships require intentionality. Our friendships determine the trajectory of our life. It's so important to be interested rather than interesting, right? We talked about the three things, the three key factors to really make people feel valued and to be liked just as you like others. And that's to be where your feet are, to slow your roll, and to document the details. We talked about 3 different levels of conversation, gave you a real clean and clear guide on how to ask great questions. And lastly, this reflection exercise. And so, my friend, my encouragement to you is this. Life is so short, and it is far too short to live it alone. It is far too short to be facing the biggest, most challenging, darkest things alone as a man. You need brothers in your life. Don't let yourself believe that you don't need that. It is a lie that you are believing, okay? We were created for community. We were created for more. So I hope this was helpful for you. I hope this was encouraging for you. I hope there was tools and different things in this episode that can help you take the next steps you need to take. If you know of anybody that would benefit from this episode and benefit from this content, would you consider sending it to a friend or a guy in your life that you know could use it? All right. I think that every guy could use this kind of stuff. I know a lot of these principles have changed my life for the better. And so consider sending that to a friend. Or if not that, consider just giving us an honest rating or review on whatever streaming platform you're listening to. If you're listening on YouTube, please head over and subscribe so you can get notifications as to when the new episodes are getting posted. And And episode by episode, one at a time, we are leveling up in our life and love. And that's what this is about, my friends. Okay, have an incredible week. I'm in your corner, my friend. Talk soon.